Wednesday wrap scarf is a cozy and fun piece for spooky season, and with a unique stitch pattern that never gets boring, you'll be making these on repeat this fall. So let's get started. The yarn I'm using for this wrap scarf is Lion Brand Heartland yarn in the color Black Canyon and Caron Simply Soft in the color White. These are both 100% acrylic worsted weight 4 yarns. You can use any worsted weight yarn you want for this scarf. I'm kind of partial to the Lion Brand Heartland yarn because I think it has a really nice drape that a lot of budget acrylic yarns just don't really get. I would have had a complementary white color to this black in Heartland, but they don't actually make one, so I chose this Caron Simply Soft yarn. You'll also need a measuring tape for a measuring gauge, a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, and a 5.25 millimeter crochet hook, which is size I in US, or whatever hook size you need to reach gauge. So I'm going to start with my black yarn, and I'm going to chain 58. That's for a size small. Follow the pattern for whatever size you're making. The free pattern on my blog is linked down below, or if you prefer, you can purchase an ad-free pattern with color-coded sizes and exclusive picture tutorial. That is linked below as well. So I have 58 chains, and now I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from my hook. And if you look at your chain, you see the little V's on one side. I always like to flip the chain over and work into these back humps. So just single crochet in each chain across. So I have made a single crochet in each of my chains. I'm going to switch colors to the white. So with my new color, I'm going to chain 3 and turn. Now you're going to double crochet into that very first stitch. If you need a refresher to make a double crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. You'll have 2 loops left on your hook. Yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. That's a double crochet. Next, we're going to chain 1, skip 3 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, and in the next stitch, we're going to double crochet 3 times, all in that same stitch. And we're just going to repeat that across. Chain 1, skip 3 stitches, double crochet 3 times into the next stitch. So we're just making these double crochet clusters of 3 stitches with 3 of these single crochet stitches from the previous row between each cluster. So continue that all the way across. Once you've worked all the way across, we're going to skip those last 3 stitches, and in that very final stitch, we're going to double crochet 2 times. Now we're going to switch colors again. So we'll be switching colors every row. There's going to be a lot of ends to weave in. If you want to weave them in as you go, that'll just save you some time later. I'm the type of person that just waits till the end and weaves them all in at once. So with our next color, we're going to chain 3 and turn. So now we're going to be working into these chain 1 spaces that we've made. So in this first chain 1 space, you're going to double crochet right into the chain 1 space. The next double crochet, you're going to work into the center stitch of the 3 skip stitches from the previous row. So we have our 3 skip stitches right here. We're going to work our double crochet into the center stitch. So when you make this double crochet, pull up your loop, hold a loose tension, and pull your loop up to the height of the row that you're working on, and complete your stitch. To complete this 3 double crochet cluster, we're then going to double crochet a 3rd time into that same chain 1 space. So you can see we've made that cluster of 3 double crochets with that double crochet spike stitch worked into the previous previous row. Again, we're going to chain 1, in the next chain 1 space, double crochet, then work a double crochet into the center stitch of the 3 skip stitches from the previous row, and then complete that double crochet cluster by working 1 more double crochet into that chain 1 space. So we're just going to repeat this all the way across, working into these chain 1 spaces. Chain 1, double crochet spike stitch, and double crochet again into that chain 1 space. So work that all the way across. So I've worked into that final chain 1 space of the row. So now we're going to chain 1 and double crochet into the top of the turning chains, this chain 3 right here from the beginning of the row. So just double crochet into that. Now we're going to switch colors again. Chain 3 and turn. So the entire body portion of this scarf or wrap scarf is just going to be a repeat of the next 2 rows. So rows 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So when you're beginning row 4, it's going to be a little different because we don't have that 3 double crochet cluster beneath that chain 1 space. So all we're going to do is just double crochet 1 time into that chain 1 space, chain 1, and now we're going to work our first cluster into this next chain 1 space. So double crochet. Now we're going to be working our spike stitch into the center double crochet of the cluster from the previous row. So here's our cluster, we're working into the center double crochet. And complete that cluster by working 1 more double crochet into the chain 1 space. And we're just repeating that across. Chain 1, double crochet into the next chain 1 space, double crochet into the center stitch of the cluster from the previous row, and double crochet again in that chain 1 space, and repeat across. So I am at the end of row 4. I've just completed my final cluster. I'm going to chain 1, and in this last, this isn't a chain 1 space, this is actually a chain 3 space made by those 3 turning chains. We're going to double crochet 2 times. And then switch colors. So with your new color, chain 3 and turn. So row 5 is going to be the same as row 4. The only difference is what we do at the beginning and the end. So over here you can see that we have these 2 double crochet stitches that we just made, and then our first chain 1 space. We're going to start working directly into that chain 1 space and make our first cluster. So double crochet spike stitch, and 1 final double crochet in that chain 1 space. Chain 1 and repeat in the next chain 1 space. So at the end of row 5, you can see that we don't have another chain 1 space, so we're going to chain 1 and then double crochet into the top of that turning chain again, or that chain 3. Switch colors and just continue repeating rows 4 and 5 for the number of rows that the pattern specifies for your size. You can see the pattern starting to take shape. So once we complete the body portion of our blanket scarf, I will show you how to create the sleeves. So I've worked up all the rows of my scarf except for the final row. I'm going to work that with you because it's a little bit different than the others. I'm going to join black and chain 1. Then I'm going to turn. And I'm going to single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So these first 2 double crochet stitches right here. Then I'm going to double crochet in the center stitch of the cluster from the previous row, like we have been doing. Then I'm going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches, which is in each of these 3 double crochets of that cluster. So what we're doing is we're just kind of creating this flat surface. We're ending our scarf now, and we don't want to have these gaps there after the last row, so we're closing up these gaps. So again, double crochet into the center stitch of the cluster from the previous row, and then single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And you're just going to repeat this all the way across and close all those gaps. Double crochet in the center stitch of the cluster from the previous row, and single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So I've reached the final stitch of this row, and in that stitch I'm going to single crochet 2 times to turn this corner. And then we're going to turn our work. So we're working down the side of our scarf. This is a little difficult because it's so long. Let me grab it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up single crochet stitches all along the length of the scarf, all the way to the other end over here. And we're going to do that by just working in to wherever feels natural. So let me zoom in. So when I'm doing this, I like to work into the side of this row here that's just peeking out a little bit. And then you can see this next row, that's a double crochet stitch right there. So I like to work 2 single crochets into that double crochet stitch. That seems to be kind of the sweet spot for stitch lengths. So work a single crochet into the side of that row right there, and then 2 single crochets again into the side of this double crochet. And just keep picking up stitches all along the length of the scarf. And the exact stitch count for this really doesn't matter, so don't worry too much about it if you're off from what the pattern says. As long as you're not seeing any bunching or stretching, which means you have too many or too few stitches. See how this is kind of nice and laying flat? That's perfect, that's what you want. So I did forget to mention that before you want to work along the edges of your scarf, you're obviously going to want to weave in your ends. So I've left a couple ends over here that I haven't woven in just to show you. So I know it seems intimidating, there's so many ends to weave in on this scarf, but it goes actually fairly quickly. So you're going to grab a tapestry needle, thread it with that tail, and then when you weave in ends, you want to weave it in one direction. And if you're new to this, something I like to do is check the opposite side. If you can see the tapestry needle through the fabric, then you might want to take it out and go a little bit shallower. We're just trying to work on the top of these strands of yarn. So pull it through one direction, go back the direction you just came, and then a third time go back that original direction. And you're not working through specific loops. I actually oftentimes like to work in between the plies of the yarn. I feel like that makes it a little bit more secure. So once you've gone 3 different directions, you can just snip off that tail and your end is securely woven in and you really can't see it at all. So I'll do one more. I'll do the white one. Thread your tapestry needle. Go in one way, and this one there's not very much runway there of white, so I'm going to go through that stitch right there and comb over into this cluster over here to weave in my end. So pull that through, go back the way you came, and back a third way. Fasten that off. And that's all you have to do. So I've worked all the way down, picking up stitches along the side of the scarf. I'm going to work into that final stitch right there and turn to work down the short side of this scarf. So what we're going to do now is do some decreases to bring in the edge of the scarf, and on top of that we'll create our sleeves. So you're going to single crochet in that first stitch, then you're going to single crochet 2 together. If you need a reminder how to do that, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. Then you're going to single crochet in the next stitch, and then single crochet 2 together. Again, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, pull through all 3 of those loops, and just continue repeating that pattern all along the short edge of the scarf. Single crochet and single crochet 2 together. So I'm at the very end of the short side. You can see how it's kind of been brought in a little bit, making the perfect size for the sleeve. I'm going to single crochet 2 together in these final 2 stitches. Some sizes will have an extra stitch or 2 at the end that you'll just single crochet into. So now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch across to this side, and that's just to get us back over to this side, because we're then going to work the sleeves back and forth in rows, and we'll want to end up over on this side so we can just continue working down the other opposite long side of the scarf. So chain 1 and single crochet in each of these stitches. Make sure you work into that final stitch. And now I'm going to chain all the stitches needed for the length of my sleeve. For this size it's 42, for the other sizes check the pattern. So now that I've made all my chains, I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from my hook in the back loop. So again, you can see that you have the little V's. When you turn the chain over, you have those back humps. I kind of just like working into the back humps as a general rule, because it's always going to create this nice clean edge on the opposite side. And just single crochet in each chain. Okay, I'm going to work into that final chain. Then I'm going to turn. And I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches along the short edge of the scarf. So that's our first stitch right there. I'm going to slip stitch into that next stitch and into the next stitch. Without chaining 1, I'm just going to turn my work again. And we're now going to single crochet back up this row that we just made. So you're going to skip those 2 slip stitches at the base, or along the edge of the scarf, and you're going to work into that next stitch, which is a single crochet stitch. And single crochet, back loop only single crochet, into that stitch. And then back loop only single crochet into each stitch except for the final stitch of this row. So if you need a refresher on back loop only single crochet, you typically work in through both loops of the stitch. So the loop closest to you is the front loop. The loop farthest away is the back loop. We're only working into that back loop. Work into that second from last stitch. And then in the final stitch, we're going to work through both loops of that final stitch. And the reason for that is it just creates a nice clean edge along the side of the sleeve, the sleeve cuff. So chain 1 and turn. And again, the first stitch of this row, we're going to work through both loops and single crochet. And then in the rest of the stitches all the way down the row, we're going to back loop only single crochet again. So we're essentially just working crochet ribbing for the sleeves, because I think it gives it a nice finished look, and it is much more stretchy than a regular single crocheted fabric. So I've reached the end of the row, and I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches along the short edge of the scarf, turn, again skip those 2 slip stitches and single crochet in the first stitch of this row, sorry, back loop only single crochet, and continue back loop only single crocheting to the final stitch, which you'll then work through both loops. And then you just repeat this pattern, this crochet ribbing, until each stitch along the short edge of the scarf has been slip stitched into. So I'll meet you back over here. So I've come to the last stitch on the edge of the short side of the cardigan. Some sizes will have 2 stitches left, some will have 1. If you have 1 stitch, just slip stitch into that single stitch. If you have 2 left, slip stitch into both of those stitches. Then you're going to turn, skip the 1 or 2 slip stitches you made, and work back loop only single crochet right into that first stitch of the row. Back loop only single crochet all the way to the other side, and regular single crochet through both loops in the final stitch. Single crochet in that final stitch, chain 1 and turn. So this is the final row of our sleeves. We're going to complete this row like we have been, single crochet through both loops of that first stitch, and back loop only single crochet along this row. So work into that final stitch of the final row of the sleeve. And you can see how our sleeve is complete, so when the sweater is all done, we'll go back and seam our sleeves closed. But for now, this brings us to the long side of our scarf on the other side, and we're going to just do what we did on the opposite side and pick up stitches along the sides of the rows. So work wherever it kind of feels natural, where there looks like there's a little bit of a hole. I typically do 2 single crochets in the side of a double crochet and 1 in the side of just a row, the little piece from the row in between. And work that all the way along the length of the scarf until you reach this opposite short side over here. So once you get to that side, work into that final stitch. And then you're just going to chain the same number of stitches you did for the opposite sleeve, and you're just going to repeat that entire process for this sleeve all the way until you reach over here, and then I'll rejoin you back to show you how to seam this scarf together. So to finish off the sleeve on this side, I'm just going to go into the side of the row and slip stitch and then fasten off. So the only thing left to do is seaming. Let me zoom out for you. So to seam the sleeves on both sides, we're just going to fold them in and whip stitch along the outer edges, and we're going to whip stitch into the sides up here about an inch, inch and a half. So I'm going to grab a length of this yarn, the black yarn. So take your black yarn and thread a tapestry needle. Then you're going to fold the sides in, and this scarf is reversible, so it doesn't matter really what side you're seaming on. And I'm going to start at the top here and just match stitch for stitch, using a whip stitch. So let me get that first stitch on this side and the first stitch on this side. And a whip stitch, you're just going to go around and around through each stitch. So the second stitch on this side, the second stitch on this side. It'll make kind of a loop over. Just pull it closed. And third stitch on this side, third stitch on this side. And just continue this all the way down. Alright, once you've seamed up the length of the sleeve, I like to just go a couple inches into the scarf part, and you can match those stitch for stitch as well. So 1 stitch on this side, corresponding stitch on the opposite side, and just seam up a little ways. So I'm working through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches on up the sleeve. I'm going to try it on really quick. And 5. I think I'm going to go a couple more stitches. You can follow the pattern for this part, or you can measure like I'm doing and just do personal preference. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, and I'm just going to make it an even 10. So at this point you can tie a little knot there and weave in your ends. Then you're going to want to seam the other sleeve. Make sure when you do that you're following the scarf like this to the opposite side without twisting it. So when you get to the other sleeve, you're folding it in the same direction as the opposite sleeve, so your scarf doesn't get twisted up. That's really important. Just remember to do that. Make sure that you're seaming your sleeves in the same direction. And that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching.